Okay, let's take a look at the different types of NAT that we've talked about. The steps for PAT, the port address translation, was label the interfaces. We're going to label the interfaces inside NAT and outside NAT, and I've already done that. Write the access control list. Which devices are we going to permit? And then we're going to enable PAT. So we're going to first, let's see if we can get to the 117.45.23.1 address on the ISP router. We'll go on this 1.2 address, and I probably have already tried it. Ping let's see, it's 117.23.45.1. Destination host unreachable. 192 ping from 192.168.1.1 says I can't get there. Let's see if we can ping. Actually, probably if I did 45.45.45 and yeah, the destination unreachable because it didn't have any idea. So, but it actually is 45.23.1. When we do that, now this is more what I expected. Nothing's happening. Timed out, which means that, hey, we got there, but probably can't get back. It most likely got there and can't get back. What we will do after it times out, because Control-C decided not to work in Packet Tracer when it's on the second screen, is we can try the .2 address, and we're in good shape. The .2 address is the other side of my router. So we're not natting, we're not getting to the other side. Let's go in here and do PAT, port address translation first. I have already, to try to make it go a little faster, configured the interfaces. Fast Ethernet 00, IP NAT inside, it's the inside interface, and then 0.1 IP NAT outside the 117.45 address, the public IP address. Realistically, when you're doing this, it's probably better if you use 00 for the outside, because zeros look like O's, and 01 for the inside because 1 look like I's. But I didn't do that. So what we're going to do in here is go to config T, and then we will do our access list 1 permit our 192.168.1.0 network with a 0.0.0.255. Remember, the zeros say check it, so check see if it's 192.168.1, and then any address, the 255, any address on that network is part of this access control list. The next thing we want to do is IP NAT, and then when we look at this thing, I want to use the question marks. We're going to IP NAT inside, and then the source here is going to be list, and the list is going to be the word or the number of the access control list 1, access control list 1, and after that we either have put a pool in, the name of the pool, the global address, and we're going to do interface Fast Ethernet 0/1, and you remember we need to give it the overload command so that it actually does PAT. Otherwise we would get a grand total of 1 translation. That should take care of port address translation, and I guess the way we find out is go back to this guy and see if we can ping the .1 address, and 45 we're getting there. So we're getting to the 1, we're getting to the 2 addresses. So it PAT worked. I want to turn this off. I'm going to stop the recording here for a second. I'm going to take those configurations off, and the next thing, using the same topology that we'll use, is dynamic NAT. Actually, I cheated a little bit to make it go a little bit faster. I just took the IP NAT inside source list 1 interface. I just took the NAT statement off. if we look at it, we still have the show run. We have the host name and we have the label, the IPNAT inside on the Fast Ethernet 00, the inside address, and the IP outside on the outside address, IPNAT outside. I left the access list. The access list is going to be the same access list here. So, and this one has an NTP server. That was for a different location. So, what we're going to do now in the dynamic NAT, we'll go back here. Dynamic label interfaces. We did that. Access control list. We did that. And now we need to create a NAT pool. So we can go in here and go in config mode, and we'll do IP NAT question mark, and then one of the, we can either NAT inside or outside, but we could also do a pool, and then we could do the pool name, and we'll call maybe public IPs. And then we need the start IP address 117.45.23. Let's do 5 to 117.45.23.9. We'll just do a few, and we have net mask. We have to put the and you see here, if we do the question mark net mask, we have to specify net mask and then type the IP of the subnet mask 255.255.255.0, mask it as class C. So after we've done that, then we can IP NAT inside, and then we'll go to the question marks again, our source, and then list or static. We're going to have our source list 1, and then pool, name of the pool, word, name, pool of global addresses, which was our public IPs. And then, since we only have a few, let's go ahead and do the overload command. And with any luck, we should be able to, we'll go to the other one, ping 192.117.45.23.2, actually .1 was the other one, wasn't it? .1, and this is always, sometimes I'm going to say it's always not good when it takes that while, but the simulator sometimes takes a little while to do that. We should be able to go into the router. This is the NAT router, show IP NAT translations, and we have translated 117.45.23.5, and then we have ports 5, 6, 7, and 8 each translation, new port. And then we have our inside local 192.168.1.35678, and the outside local, and then the outside global. It doesn't know anything about the outside local and the outside global. So show IP NAT. Let's see what else. Look at statistics, and then we start the public IPs, net mask, and then the start address, the end address. Total address is 5. Allocated one of them, 20%, and then we have misses of 0. Instead of going through and making you suffer through watching me do typos again, this one has a static NAT configured, and it's just a matter IP NAT, and we did that, IP NAT inside, source, static, TCP 192.168.2.2, port 80, and then 117.23.1. What we're doing is, and you may have done this at home if you've done a port forwarding on your home router, that's essentially what we're doing here. We're taking the public 117.23.1, if we go to port 80, and we're sending it to the 192.168.2.2 machine here. So let's see if that will work. We can go to our desktop here and go to our HTTP server. We'll go to http://117.45.20.23.1. Is that right? And we are getting to the web server that's on the other side. So static NAT, instead of making you actually watch the typing, the commands, we NAT and we specify IP NAT's inside source. We specify it static TCP 192.168.2.2 and then to the private inside to outside, the private to the public addresses. So that should hopefully be a look at how to configure NAT on a CISCO router. The dynamic NAT with the pool, PAT with the overload command NATed to the interface, which uses the interface address and then ports, and then the static address, static NAT. Remember, static's when we, and hopefully you see that static is when we have a resource that we need to have the same IP address all the time, in this case a web server. So with that, I will quit now and hope it's been useful.